And so here we are, second Sunday of Advent, second Sunday to live in that beautiful sense of expectancy of something wonderful, great and good and grand about to happen. And why not by means of you? That's why we're here. Why not? Why not? And so the good Dr. Ernest Holmes has us looking this week in our chapter at conditions. Conditions. Like the poor, conditions will always be with us. We're always living in a state of some condition or another and surrounded by conditions indeed. And so we're going to once and for all take a deeper look at this and see, well, okay, has my understanding about conditions changed in any way over the days and the months and the weeks and the years I've been on this plane? Or does that idea that I have about conditions remain the same? Because what is in this chapter is the stunning, again, realization that conditions are facts. And facts, no matter how hard the facts are, can be changed, as we have proven over and over and over again. There was a time when everybody believed the fact that this world was flat. And that was the God's gospel truth. That was it. It's flat. That's that. And of course we know that is so not true anymore. And all kinds of other facts have changed. When I was a youngster, growing up 200 years ago in Ireland and in a Catholic family, in a Catholic country, going to a Catholic school, I mean, we had to fast at midnight, from midnight until we received Holy Communion the next morning. Now, that's why 7-year-olds went down like flies. They fainted all over the place in the churches on a Sunday, and you had all these ambulance people standing by to resuscitate them again. And if you didn't, it was a very bad thing. It was a mortal, mortal, mortal sin, and if you died with a mortal sin in your soul, you went straight to hell, whether you were 7 or 70. Now, that's no longer true. No longer true. It's not a fact anymore. And so facts change all the time. And remember, conditions are facts, conditions are facts, conditions are facts. Now, what I love to do is to go to the experts and see how they handle conditions. I love that. Love to go to the experts, see how they do it, the masters, how they approach conditions. And of course, one of my favorite people of all times is Jesus, the Christed one. I mean, I've known him since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and we're like that now. We're buds, he's my bro. I like to hang out in his hood. His Christ hood. I do. And he's the one that opened me up to all the other beautiful masters and all the other traditions too, because he said in heaven, there's no Jew, there's no Gentile, there's just the one thing. It's all God. And he did say heaven was here and now. And he did say heaven was within. So I love that about him, but there are many things I love about him. I could wax strong on him forever and a day. But what I love is what he did with conditions and how he responded to conditions. And the way he did it was to ignore them entirely, not to give them any thought, not to give them any energy, not to even call them by a name, but to completely go right past beyond the conditions. And so he would calmly say to the lame, walk, to the deaf, hear, to the blind, see, and to the dead, rise, just like that. No fuss, no muss. He didn't roll up his sleeves and say, this is a hard one. Lazarus has been dead for 3 days. Oh my God, how am I going to do this one? I better psych myself up for this. Go away into retreat for 7 days and see what I can do. No, he didn't. He just calmly said, Lazarus, come forth. And he did. Again, they're out on the stormy sea, and the boat is in fear of sinking, and everybody's scared silly, and they all shake him and wake him up and say, Master, 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 save us, save us. The sea is going to drown us. And Jesus kind of wipes sleep from his eyes. He stands up and he looks out and he said, peace, be still. He brings calm to the turbulence, calm to the storm. Peace, be still. And the sea gets it. comes into compliance, settles down, relaxes, and becomes calm. Now, I love that. I love that. But the most important part of that is that Jesus said, what I have done, you can do too. What you can do too, I'm doing now, and you can do it. Of course, the kicker there is, provided that I can come into the same consciousness that Jesus had come into, provided that I can become so unified with the source of my being, whom he loved to call Father, Abba, actually, Daddy, much more intimate, and have that same sense of, not me, I don't do a darn thing, it's okay, I don't have to fuss myself and muster myself up here to do a darn thing. It is the power, it's the presence of the Father within me that does the work. Now, if I can do that, if I can achieve the Christ consciousness that Jesus achieved, and he said I could, because we're all born Christed, we just have to wake up to it and move into it and accept it and recognize it and work with it and from it, then any condition that comes my way, I can do what the great master did. I can speak truth to it. And the way to speak truth to it is to completely ignore it and see the truth before me. He never saw a sick person. He never met a sick person. He only saw the person as they were in their essence, in their truth, whole, perfect, and complete. And that's what you and I can do when we are in the face of conditions, and conditions are bearing in on us, and we have found ourselves in a condition. That's what we can do. Whether the pronouncement has been by a doctor or an attorney or a boss or whatever, we can just bypass all of that and go to the truth, the way we are. Because Dr. Ernest Holmes points out in this chapter that at the center core of our being, centered within us, is a radiant light. And that light knows no darkness. And if I can bring the light to the dark, then the dark must dissipate itself. And the only way I can do that is to understand that although conditions are there, I am not the condition. We hear people say all the time, well, what condition is it in? What condition is she in? What condition is he in? And then after we hear what we hear, we decide, we make a pronouncement and a judgment about it and so on. Oh, she's in that condition, he's in that condition, it's in that condition. Which is the opposite to what a master would do. Because a master knows it is not a condition. She is not a condition. He is not a condition. It, he, she, much more than the condition. Much more than that. And if we could get ourselves into that, settle into that, feel into that, allow that, believe that, have faith in that, then that radiant light within us would dissipate the darkness of the condition. Now, this is not easy. If it was easy, none of us would know what a condition was. But we do. But it's doable. It's doable. Thousands of people have done it. Thousands of people are doing it. And many more thousands of people will do it in the future. They will know. They will put on the mind that was in Christ Jesus, and they will be able to take that Christed consciousness to the condition and dissipate the condition. Now, here is the thing. You and I can only do that when we have absolute faith and trust in divine providence. Divine providence, the source of our being, the lover of our being, the provider for our being. We have to have absolute faith in that and speak the word of authority that Jesus did. They said of him, he's the man who speaks with authority. Why? Because he was in touch with the power within him. What are the words that Ernest Holmes keep using all the time, all the time, all the time? He talks about us showing up with enthusiasm or passion, in joy, celebration, with energy, vim, vigor, zest, and energy, and with power, enthusiasm, joy, energy, power. That's what we have to bring to the condition. We cannot drag our sad, sorry, derrieres to the condition. Now, that's what the masters didn't do. What we're inclined to do is to use the divine as a great dumping ground. We come to the divine and we dump all our wails and woes and ailments and all the rest of it upon the divine, as though it has nothing to do with us, and here, you do it. Well, yes, the divine will do it, but only with our cooperation, with our recognition of the power and the presence that can take care of it, and with our acceptance that this can be done, and with our deep appreciation and gratitude for the very real and present help of Spirit to us when we draw from it. Ernest Holmes says the way that we have to show up to life is with a song on our lips and joy in our hearts. Well, when did you last go into realizing you're good when you were besotted by a condition with, music in yourself, singing itself through you, and the song on your lips, and this great radiating joy in your heart? Usually it's, oh my God, I better pray or do something about it, and muster up the energy to do that. And then again, Ernest Holmes points out in the chapter that we do not pray when we're in spiritual mind treatment, knowing the truth. We do not pray the prayer of supplication. What we do is go into prayerfulness, the prayerfulness of recognition in faith, and acceptance with absolute joy and gladness and thanksgiving, because we can know that this is being handled and we're saying yes to the good that we desire. That's the way we do it. And he talks about this gentleman who comes over from England hoping to find healing and a cure in America. A very well-known, highly respected architect. He's just finished an astounding job in an astounding building in London. He comes over here and he's fried. He's literally fried. He has, his nervous system is shot, his digestive system is shot, and he's in total fear, paralyzed by fear, and he doesn't know why. And all the treatments he has sought hasn't worked. Well, by chance, or was it? He found himself at a lunch talk with Ernest Holmes. He was so overcome by what he heard, he talked to Ernest Holmes and then booked himself into the spiritual sanatorium that Ernest Holmes had at that time. You could go and spend time working on whatever you had that needed to be healed in his place. And so Ernest Holmes says it was a long, drawn-out thing to get the root cause of why he was the way he was. And he had no idea why he was the way he was. And then through careful help and education and prayer and so on, it was discovered that this man absolutely hated his brother with a vengeance. And he had been repressing that all these years. He was of the opinion that he was over it, that he'd forgiven his brother who gave him a dreadful life when he was a kid growing up. And he thought he was over that he'd forgotten it and so on. But the truth is that the censor within him stepped into place because as a child it was just too much for any kid to bear. And the censor repressed it so that he buried it. And now it had all come up to the front of his consciousness and his being, and he was able to look at this. And with the work that he did with Dr. Ernest Holmes, he was able to release the hatred and let the hatred go, let the resentment go, let the anger go, let the bitterness go, let the hatred go. And of course, he returned to London healed and lived a great good life, because that's what was eating away at his digestive system, that hatred and that resentment and that unforgiveness. And that's what had shot his nerves. And he was in a mental decline. He was going down into a mental decline. And so that all got resolved. So, this week we need to be looking at what the conditions in our lives, why they're there, and maybe there's something that's not yet forgiven. Maybe there's something that needs to be looked at. Maybe there's something that we're still holding resentment around, even though we're thinking, oh my gosh, no, I don't do that anymore. I'm finished with that. I'm a good girl, I am. I'm holy now. I've caught spirituality now, and that's not where my mind goes. But this could be something repressed deep down within us all. So we need to look at that this week. Perhaps it's a good week to do it, to see if there's anything left that is unresolved as far as forgiveness is concerned, because there's an awesome power in forgiveness. Awesome power in forgiveness. When you would go to Ernest Holmes, not Ernest Holmes, but his buddy, Dr. Bitzer, who was my first teacher in this teaching, and it didn't matter what your ailment was, what your condition was, he only ever asked you two questions. Number one question was, well, what is there in your life that you have not yet forgiven? Is there something that you have not yet forgiven in your life? You need to look at that, because this could be the cause of your condition. If it wasn't that, the next thing he would say, well, are you tithing to your spiritual support? Are you giving to your spiritual support? Those were the only two questions he ever asked. Because as far as he was concerned, those were the two main causes of any condition that we were in. And he would say, and if you're withholding from the universe by not supporting your good in your spiritual home, he'd say, the universe will take it out of your hide. You'll find yourself getting parking tickets and all kinds of things showing up that you hadn't accounted for, that you need to pay out money for. He said, so you better look at that. And as for unforgiveness, well, you know the theory. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Forgive and the condition will be forgiven. The condition will disappear. Dr. Anita, on the other hand, it didn't matter what your ailment was when you went to her. She said, you need to volunteer. Volunteer is what you need to do. And for Dr. Anita, the answer was volunteering, you see. Because when you're volunteering, you have to take your mind off yourself and put your mind on someone else. And that's a great good thing to do. So when it comes to understanding that you and I have sovereign dominion over our lives, that's no good knowing that until we take possession of that and decide, yes, I will be in charge of my life. I will be the sovereign in my own life. I will take dominion in my own life, and then do that from a place of goodness and kindness and mercy and compassion. Then things begin to change, and change for the better. Now, Ernest Holmes says what it boils down to is this. It boils down to your ability and my ability to be able to stand before a condition and close the door of consciousness to it. That means closing the door of consciousness to every negative thing, thought, feeling, whatever, person, closing the door to every negative thing and everything that denies us our good that we desire. And then, in open receptivity, entering into the joy, entering into the enthusiasm, entering into the energy and the power within us that can turn the darkness into light if we would just allow it. Surrender, he says, is always part of this process. But, he says, the only thing that you and I have to surrender, or ask to surrender, are the negatives, are the things that stop us, are the things that block us from our good. That's all we ever have to surrender. Give them up. Hand them over. It's like put down your guns, put down your swords, put down your shields, put down your armor, take it all off, give it all up, hand it in to the local sheriff's office, and then you may enter the city and be able to be part of its villageness, its peacefulness, its welcomeness. That's all we have to do. Because you can see all those negatives and everything else that stops us and blocks us as the guns we wear on our hips, as the armor we wear on our bodies, and so on, just in case we need to shoot anything out of the ground, whatever, just in case we need to blow something away. You see, we're not going to blow it away that way. One negative meeting another negative doesn't work. I have to take the light to the darkness so the darkness can dissipate itself. And I can. It's given to me to be able to do that because all that could be given to me of good has already been given to me. There's nothing left for the universe, for life, for the infinite to give me. I have been given it all. However, life is a mirror. And what I think and feel into it is what comes back at me. Therefore, I have to hold up an open, receptive consciousness, a consciousness that is receptive to abundance of all kinds. I have to be in the recognition that my good is here for me and that I am supposed to have it and that life wants me to experience it. So, whatever consciousness I hold up to it is what I get back from it. Whether it's a limited consciousness or a non-limited consciousness, that's what I'll get back. So how large is the vessel I hold up to my good? How large is my vessel? I get to choose. I get to choose. How big and wide and deep and high that is, or how teensy-weensy it is. So if I have a teensy-weensy consciousness, I'm going to get a teensy-weensy bit back from life. That's all. If I have a teensy-weensy way of putting into life, if I have a teensy way of giving to life, if I have a teensy way of contributing to life, I'll get the teensy-weensy back. And that's all, and no more. So you see, the power is within you. You're shot through with enormous power, infinite intelligence. And that is why Solomon said in all his glory, in all you're getting, get wisdom. In all you're getting, get understanding. In all you're getting, get knowledge. Because she is richer than rubies. Her way is pleasantness, and her path is peace. She is the tree of life to those who can take her. That beautiful. Now that's all available to you right now, exactly as you are, mucked up as you might be, perfect as you might be. If you're all mucked up, it can only get better. If you're perfect, the perfection can be refined, and all the shades in between. There's nothing you have to do except change your mind. That's all. Change your thinking. And don't think that some of us in this room are not mucked up. Oh yes, we have mucked up people in this room. There's a little bit of muck on us all, just to keep us humble. But we can wash it away. We can wash it away. And we don't have to pretend that we're all holier than thou. We don't have to pretend at all. We can just show up as we are, however we are, with a good will, with good intention, feeling that we can and must and will be better, because it's given to us to be well and happy and healthy and receiving fullness and plenty, because we're giving out fullness and plenty, and to be amazingly, creatively expressing in our lives and achieving all kinds of satisfaction as a result of that. How wonderful it would be if we all lived the way we could live, can live right now. So I'm saying that what Ernest Holmes is saying in this chapter, and read it for yourself, and there's much more in it too, is go out there expecting only your good. And go out there with an open mind and open heart that recognizes your good is there for you. And with an attitude of gratitude that says yes to that good. Are you ready to do that? Yes. When? Yes. And so it is.
invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.